Good morning. Yes, everybody's adjusting their cameras, getting your coffee, tea, a beverage. And we will get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Goranka Vukelich, and I have the pleasure of being one of the co-chairs of the planning table. And I would like to invite my counterpart, Barb Cardow, who will introduce herself and offer a territorial acknowledgement. Over to you, Barb. Oh, you're muted.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thanks, Goranka, and good morning, everybody. So great to see you all. And yes, I'm Barb Cardow, and I'm co-chair with Goranka of the Children and Youth Planning Table. Really happy to be here this morning. I know there's lots going on and lots to share throughout the morning, and I think some really neat developments have been had, and it'll be great to share with you what we have going on. I do want to start by acknowledging that the land that most of us in Waterloo Region is the land that is part of the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral peoples. This land is part of the Haldeman Tract, which was committed to the Haudenosaunee, or Six Nations, in 1784. I offer this acknowledgement just as one small way of showing my commitment to continued reconciliation, including the celebration of the deep, enduring presence, philosophies, and knowledge of Indigenous people and their contributions to the community, especially on as it relates to our youngest citizens, our children and youth. And I also just want to acknowledge the importance of all of us on this call as leaders in our community to honor and move forward the recommendations that are provided in the Acts of Truth and Reconciliation.
Thanks, Barb. As Barb indicated, we do have quite an exciting and full morning. Leave it to us to try to pack lots of exciting things into a short period of time. But what can we do? There's been a lot of exciting things going on. Before we dive into the agenda, I'd just like to review a couple of logistics. I see lots of great people on our joining us virtually. So really invite you to please change your name so that we can see your name and your organization if you have one, and if that's possible. We'd love to know who you are. Please keep your mic muted unless you are speaking. And then, of course, when you are speaking, do remember to unmute yourself so that we can all hear the wonderful contributions that you will be making. And also, please take care of yourself through this morning. Grab a drink, a snack, have a bathroom break. Do what you need to take care of yourself. And feel free to post what's happening at our meeting on social media. Follow us and interact with us on social media. We really invite you to do that. We'll interact in this new virtual world that we are creating for ourselves. So really invite you to do that. Want to look at the agenda. We do have, as we've indicated, a pretty packed morning. We have 5 sessions running back to back this morning. We'll try to include a few minutes in between each session for a bit of a breather. So the first session is, first we're going to say a few words before we move into talking about navigating belonging supports. At 10 o'clock, we'll hear from our Smart Waterloo Region team about the work that is happening at the lab. At 10:30, we'll talk about measuring belonging at a program level, including any upcoming work to programs that serve our very young children. And then at 11 o'clock, we're going to take a really cool look at how synthetic modeling can help us see what belonging might look like in the future. There's a lot going on about artificial intelligence and what that might look like. So we'll take a little peek as to how that might impact some of our work. And finally, our last segment this morning is at 11:30. And we'll hear everything there is to hear about our youth impact survey, all of the latest and the greatest, and the new developments related to that. So again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to a terrific morning. Oh, unmute yourself, Barb.
Thank you so much, Goranka. And you just said that too, didn't you? So as an opener, we thought it'd be interesting if, just to share a few of our own reflections, Goranka and I, um, on the belonging work for the first half of this year. And I took a little bit of a, personal perspective on it and just wanted to take a couple minutes to share that with you. So I went back and reflected on, the choice when we first identified belonging work as the priority of the Children and Youth Planning Table. That was in 2018. And we chose that. We knew it was going to be harder to measure and harder to define, but we just thought it was so important because it was so foundational to child well-being. And without a sense of belonging, we determined that any other work really could not be done until we can create a community where all children and youth belong. As we went through that work, we also identified that belonging aligned perfectly as well with the many calls that have come over the past several years for anti-hate, anti-bias, and anti-oppressive work. And of course, these calls have come out of just horrific acts of hate that have occurred since 2019. And in fact, the group saw equity as one of the pillars of belonging. And I just wanted to speak to, my own experience over these last few years. And we knew it was going to be hard work, and that equity work as part of belonging would be a lot of hard work. And I've just personally experienced just how important it is to completely tear down my own defenses and listen and respond with an open heart to how the work that I'm a part of may impact others in negative ways. Recognizing that so much, especially because I work for government, what many of our practices are very colonial, and they're white practices that do not work for a number of folks. And so this is causing me to have to take a breath, step back, and think about how I can make changes. And some of those changes are already happening, but it continues to be hard work. So that's one of my learnings. The other of my learnings around belonging and equity is silence is not an option. And this is new learning, I think, for a number of us. The part of me that seeks peace and harmony is really challenged to respond well when I need to speak up to the reactions of others, both in my personal and in my professional life. And the challenge of best approaching others from a place of love in respectful ways that are least likely to alienate others, and yet remaining firm in my intentions and in my knowledge of what needs to happen in this community. And that could be really difficult because those conversations can be truly emotional, and I am working on finding and I've certainly faltered along the way by either being too silent or by being too, perhaps setting up conflict that becomes more divisive. And so that is an ongoing journey that I'm having. And as I work through this, I consult with many of you on this call and my colleagues at the region on how we can best respond and yet further divide our community. And the other learning I've had is how important that we continue this work. and how grateful I am that I have the community of the CYPT behind me to lean on when my work feels really hard for me. And I'll just close my thoughts with, one of the youth has said, her name is Mobina, has said, belonging means you don't have to hide who you are in order to fit in. And boy, what a, better motivator than that. That is the best motivator for me, is I just think of those words from Mobina as I continue the work ahead and continue to develop my own skills in this area.
Thanks, Barb. Really appreciate your thoughts. And Barb and I invite each of you and all of us together to consider what some of our work has meant for each of us as individuals and your organizations in our community. As Barb indicated, we have taken on the difficult task of unpacking what belonging really means. It's belonging is a word that is a pretty simple word, a benign word. We use it. We've all used it our entire lives, I'm sure, in some way, shape, or form. And it has come to mean so much more as we've really operationalized it, considered it from all of these different perspectives, including an evidence-informed research perspective. Belonging isn't just a simple thing that either is or isn't. We all can contribute and play a role in creating the conditions for belonging in our communities. And that's been a really important task for us. We've considered belonging from a broad system perspective to an individual kind of minute operational perspective. We really asked some difficult questions in terms of what does belonging mean for us, for those that we work with, and for our entire community. When I think about the first half of our year as a collective, I think about the force of our community and the work that we've done together. The way that when I think about our community in our region, especially, the face of our community continues to change and new voices continue to emerge in our communities. And those voices and those faces have added so much richness and diversity to all of our work and to our happenings and our circumstance in our community. And it's not always been an easy path for us, as Barb has indicated. We've had to do a lot of reflection as individuals and as organizations. There has been some resistance along the way, many dissenting voices along the way as well. And I'm so proud to be a part of a community that has the courage to ask the tough questions and to do the tough stuff, the right stuff, if you will. And I'm so very proud to be part of a collective with all of you, a collective that supports each other, that challenges each other during these transformational changes. We've done tremendous work in listening to our youth, and we have so much ahead of us in trying to find ways to weave in our youngest citizens and their voices into our work. Not many folks have taken on that challenge, and we're very proud to do that. And our journey continues. The path will be what it will be. There'll be some great things along the path, and it'll be a little bit rocky along the way as well. And when I look on my computer screen, I can't think of a better group I would like to make this journey with. So thank you for all of the work that you have done, for all of your contributions, not only to our collective, to your individual organizations, and to our entire community. So with that, let us begin our morning. Barb, I wonder if you can introduce our first speakers. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I am so sorry.
It's
I am really I'm really pleased to introduce Allison, who most of you I'm sure know, who's the manager of the Children and Youth Planning Table, as well as Saba Oji, who is with Smart Waterloo Region. Sorry, Saba, your title is escaping me, so I'm going to need you to introduce that for me, who are going to talk about some really exciting developments in Family Compass. Saba, could you please remind me your title?
Sure, it's the knowledge and data lead.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thanks, Allison and Saba.
Thank you, Goranka and Barb, and good morning, everyone. If I haven't met you before, my name is Allison Pearson. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in the manager seat on the staff team with the Children and Youth Planning Table. And thank you, Barb and Goranka, for those words to start the morning. It's a really nice way of just pausing and reflecting on, I mean, there's the journey that is what 2023 has been so far, and then there's that longer journey to be reminded of with this group about a decade in now to coming together in this Children and Youth Planning Table configuration. And I always just feel so honored that I get to walk alongside all of you in supporting the work that you seek to do together. And when members named belonging years ago, it's awesome to see Diane in the room today, because I often think of you, Diane, when that decision was made, and I remember you clearly saying, oh, geez, we picked the hardest one. And that sort of shared sentiment of folks of, yeah, this is nebulous, this is tricky, we don't have great data, but that unwavering belief that it was the right one, that it was the foundational piece to well-being, and that it had to be the focus. And I think over the last few years in particular, and as this year unfolds, I see ongoing reminders of what a wise and smart choice that was of members to focus on. And so what I would love to spend a few moments sharing with you on is a support that we have in our midst to help navigate towards supports and services that can help with belonging, as well as other well-being items for children and youth and families, and that is Family Compass. And I hope for many of you, or maybe all of you in the room, I hope you have at least heard of Family Compass. This is a resource that the members developed in 2018, it launched. And I'm going to just spend just a couple of moments reminding folks of what that resource is, but I'm going to make sure you have as much time as possible to hear from Saba, who is helping us take that site to a next level in supports for our community. So Family Compass, it is a website in our community, and it's what many of us consider the go-to website if you're looking for supports and services for children and youth. It's a resource that was designed with parents in mind, or guardians, families as the primary audience, but also service providers and also youth. So the idea of, rather than having to keep a list, of where you would want to reach out and connect with that may or may not be up to date, Family Compass would be that up-to-date, comprehensive resource for all things pre-birth to 18 in our community. And it was designed as the members came off of discussions around access in general and the need for navigation supports. So members did work together to really identify that there was a lot in our community, a lot of wonderful supports, but a lot of confusion. And I would say that continues to be something that collectively we continue to think about and wonder about how to make it easier. So Family Compass is meant to be an online navigation tool, and it was based on parents and guardians and families saying, it's sometimes that 11 o'clock at night in my pajamas on my couch time when I want to be able to search through options that might be of help to my family. And this site was developed with 3 doors, as you can see on your screen. That first door is Search for Services, which is meant to be that self-navigation tool where you enter keywords, or maybe you search alphabetically, or you look at some popular buckets and helps to find the information that you're looking for. That middle door is called I Have a Concern. This door was developed in partnership with the Special Needs Resourcing Planning Table and the Lead Agency for Mental Health. And it is a set of questions that helps guide the user to their best starting point organization. And the third door here is a link off to Parenting Now and a specific focus on resources for parents. What I would like to just spend a few moments saying a few more comments about is that search for services door. So when you're on that part of the website, as I mentioned, you're searching yourself, you're doing some self-navigating, and you might wonder, where's that information pulling from? And it's pulling from Ontario 211. And the members at the time felt it was really essential that we not create a separate set of data, that we build off of infrastructure that already exists. And member organizations already had a role in updating their records for that Ontario database. And so what our site does is pull the pre-birth to 18 Waterloo Region catch of Ontario 211. And so when you update your records there, it updates here automatically as well. So as we continue to want to make that experience for folks that much easier, that much more supportive, there is an exciting development with our Smart Waterloo Region partners in a way to help make it easier for folks who are looking for services. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand it over to Saba, who's going to walk you through a bit of a demonstration on what is being developed. Thanks all.
Great, thank you. Again, I am Saba, so I'm going to share what we've been doing at Smart Waterloo Region Innovation Lab with you with this specific project, and then later on we'll get a chance to actually talk about all the projects that we're doing. I'm going to start sharing my screen. All right. So as Allison mentioned, when you go to the search for services, it's very keyword based. So what that means is if I want mental health services, I would have to write mental health, and then it will show me all the resources out here. However, if let's say I'm a newcomer or I just don't know the exact keyword, and I want to explain how I feel and type as I'm talking and as I'm thinking. So if I were to say I am sad, nothing necessarily will show up because it's very keyword search based. Again, if you don't want to do keyword search, you can search based on topics, buckets that Allison mentioned, and that's also a resource that you could do it. So we were thinking, a lot of the work we do at the lab, we just want to make sure it's accessible to everyone, regardless of their background, whether they know a lot about technology, whether they know English, whether they know anything. So we're just trying to think about approaching solution in a more holistic manner. So currently we're working on a chatbot that it's going to be implemented on this website. So the way we're approaching it is we first use the 211 list and the specific list that was created for Family Compass. And we sort of use artificial intelligence to sort of understand the typing and the conversation, and then give you the result based on that conversation that you're having with the chatbot. So actually, I'm just going to go to this to talk about it a little bit more, what we were seeing and what we were trying to propose. So again, as I mentioned, there was a problem and there was a gap. So the problem was that it was limited language support, meaning you could only do keyword searching based on English language. Let's say if you wanted to express in your first language, you're not able to do it with the current stage. So the gap was like, okay, we have to target two things. One is that we want to make sure it's more conversational and not just keyword. And two, we want to provide the opportunity that folks can actually write in their language and access those resources in their language so they can have a better understanding of what's going on. So it's not just limited to a certain population, rather, again, holistic as much as possible. So this was our solution. We came up with an artificial intelligence chatbot with the use of NLP. And what that means, it stands for natural language processing. And it means you're having a conversation. So it's a natural language and the sort of bot understands that natural language and just the communication part. We also wanted to make sure, again, it's multilingual translation. And another thing we're approaching it is that we wanted to make sure we're creating the base of it, like the structure, the model of it, that it can be replicated in any other website or any other services. As long as we have a list of service, it can do the same thing. Obviously, we would need to change a little bit of small adjustment and personalize it based on what you're specifically looking. But our goal wasn't just to build something that it's only for this and then we have to redo the whole thing for another website or things like that. Our goal was to like look at the most like efficient way of creating it. So let's create the model that can be put in any other location or any other place, and then that way we can just reuse it and everyone can benefit from this tool. We also wanted to, again, we understand folks use different tools for just creating their website. We wanted to create something that could just be applied to the website. It's like an add-on, it's not a full-on build. So we've built the entire thing, we organized it, we packaged it in one thing, and all the person has to do is sort of merge that to their website. So, and that part, that's something we can definitely help with anyone that's doing it. So I'm going to do a quick demo to show you how it actually looks like, and then we can talk about it, and then you can ask as many questions as you want. So this is, I was having a conversation with it. So this is the chatbot that it's gonna look like. It's not, again, finalized. Like look-wise, we can change it. That's not a big issue. As you can see, the website for now, this is just our website with all the current projects we're working on. So imagine just this part being added to the family compass. So we can change the height, we can change anything, but it would just exist right here. And then we can minimize it if you need to, and so on. So the chatbot uses a couple of things that are cool. So if you go to the setting, you can change the radius of where you want how far you want the services to be. For example, if there's a certain thing you're looking for and you know you can't really go that far, you just bring the radius down. However, then if you don't see any resources near you, then you might have to adjust it. Second thing is that it uses your first 3 digits of postal code to just show you the most closest services that you care about. So for me, I'm going to use this location because that's where I live. The third thing is the language, as I mentioned. We don't want to just have it in English. At the moment, it's on auto detect, meaning like whatever you type, it's going to work. It's going to understand it and give you the answer back. However, you can change these languages. You can change it to whatever language you're trying to do. So let's actually do the same thing that I said, like I am sad, and then I'll show better example. So if I were to say I am sad, right now we call that lap butler because we want it to be funny. Again, these will change for Family Compass. It sort of understand you, and then it will provide you a quick fix that, hey, like you can go and do some breath work that is provided by the Ontario government. If you're, and then you can this is your immediate thing. However, let us know what type of service you're looking for. So if you're looking for mental health, then I can type mental health. Or if I look for something else, then I can write it. That way it's giving you more specific results. So these are here are some services within the 6 kilometer, which is something I search for. so I can see what's around me. So this set data, again, it's from 211. We don't really work with data. That's not what we do. We're more on a tool. We create the tool. If you have the data, we'll just use the tool. Yeah, and then, so for example, let's use another example. So if I'm looking for a summer camp for my son, I'm using Persian just because that's my language. So if I were to just copy paste this, I can put it in the chat, and because it has that auto detect, it will understand it. It will sort of tell you all the names of the places. And if I care about, I can just click on one and just be redirected to that website. And then currently, it's not the cutest thing, but we can do feedback. So we can give it feedback, thumbs up and thumbs down. And this is important because if it's something we're not doing a good job of understanding it, then that can, we can use it as a backend to train our model to make it a lot more robust. So this is the first version that we tackled. Again, looks aside, we can always change the looks and make it better. Like that's making it pretty is not, it's like one of my last thing that I want to care about because I want to make sure the function actually works, the tool actually works. The looks are super easy to change at the end. So this was the first version we created. The second version that we're currently working on, but it's not implemented in this chatbot, is it actually, you can further, if you're interested about certain services, you can actually ask question from this service, and the bot is able to actually go to this website and do like a quick look around and see if he can find you that information. So it's going beyond that first level of just here's the list of things, here's the website. We're trying to make it more, again, holistic as possible, give you as much information that you might need, and then take it from there. So again, this is just the first version. While we created this first version and made the packaging and everything, we're working on the second version. And again, as I mentioned, the way we work is like everything is done from our end. So changing that version 1 to version 2, again, it comes from our back end, from us, and you won't even notice it because there's not an extra work that we're putting on anyone else's plate. It's from our end, and it's very easy to fix. And once we have that second version, obviously, I think there's always room for improvement, but obviously it might be smaller improvement, and we can constantly work on it. And then that whole framework can be implemented in anywhere else we want it to be. Does anyone have any questions?
I see Jane's hand is up from the WRDSB.
Hi there. I'm Heather. I'm sitting in with Jane today. We are safe, and Jane is beside me here.
Hi, everyone.
And we are safe and healthy schools consultants at the WRDSB. So thank you so much. Really interesting, Sava. My question is, I love that you say that it can be replicated, and it's fantastic for folks to be able to search for what they need. And then will you cross-reference with the resources that pop up so that they can access the resources in their own language as well?
Sorry, you mean beyond this?
Yes. So for example, they get a list of resources, then that might be a roadblock at that point, right? Because those resources won't be able to access the information in their own language there. So will there be an opportunity for you to consider how you might cross-reference the work that you do with the resources that you provide so that they too can use your bot to get more information and create even more belonging?
Yeah, that's something definitely. It wouldn't necessarily be like, it would depend on the organization. So we would need to consult with the organization and make sure they have that ability to translate their website, and then we can do that together. However, we'll do as much as we can. Obviously, the translation that it's happening right now. Everyone pretty much is using the Google Translate API, they call it. This just means they're reusing their framework. And it's not the most accurate translation for longer and complex thing. So that's another thing we're actually tackling. As you can see on the left side, it says translate, because we were trying to tackle it and see if we can actually use it for not just the common languages, but also the uncommon languages, with the hope that, again, if we build something like that, maybe we can have a plugin for all the websites that they can translate your website. But that's more on the future side of things.
That's great. Well, thank you. It looks amazing.
Excellent resource. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Saba, Allison here. Just for people's interest, you just mentioned the use of Google Translate as a source to try to help, but could you say a little bit about some of the other sources that you've pursued, or the way that you're trying to make this a bit more natural in the language and the phrasing and such?
Yeah, so we're sort of we did a lot of research to figure out what everyone has been doing for Translate, and it's easy to find certain papers for certain languages. However, just one thing that might work for them, it might not work with all the languages. So a different approach that we're taking is we're sort of trying to take a lot of different resources for training the translation model, with the hope that if it works for language, then it might work for more languages. So the resources that we're looking for are not just, it could be like movie script, it could be like feedback from reviews from a certain website, certain Google, but it's also like poetry and more music, just to see if we can, like, if it throw different ways of communication at the model, hopefully it might better understand it. Obviously, we're at the early stages. We don't know if it's going to work, but we're just trying to approach it slightly different. And also we recognize that your model is as good as the amount of data set that you have. So if you don't have a lot of data sets for uncommon languages, then again, we're limited. So we're not only just tackling it by giving it a variety of data source to train on, but also trying to look at ways that we can create synthetic data. So that's another thing that we're trying to do. So if we tackle that and if we get a better approach of it, then having low limited data set is not a big deal. Having said that, we're gonna do as much as possible. Eventually, we might need some translator to help us to finalize this model. But once it's finalized, then you save in the long run, because you've created something that it works. You created it with the latest technology. You created it with the human verifying that. And then you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to the websites. You can apply it to grant writing. You can apply it to promoting your services, your programs in the language that you want, and hopefully it will help us. But again, that one is, we're at the very early stages of that one, to be honest. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Saba, well done. This is amazing. Every time I see the chatbot, I'm always blown away. Well done. I know you talked about replication. Can you speak more to, if you, I know this is on Family Compass right now, but if you were to replicate this on another website, can you speak to what that looks like and what do we do? Who do we connect with, and what would that process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, the process would be contacting us, and then we sort of ask that you give us a little bit of information where your data set is coming and who's working with the creating your website. And we sort of ask like what your needs are, and then we can target that based on your needs. If it's just a generic like chatbot like this, then that's it. If you want certain things like being able to sign up for a program, then that requires new features that we haven't created. But it's something we'll create for you. And again, we'll package it nicely and then we integrate it with your website. So it might take some time, but it's very simple. It's more so understanding what your needs are, honestly, because then we can tailor it based on your needs.
It looks like that's it for questions or comments. Allison, is there anything left that you need to speak about?
Well, in our remaining couple of minutes, maybe I will just offer, so you heard Saba say, this works only as well as the information that's in there. And you heard me say that 211 is where it is pulling the information from. So I would encourage you in, Barb and Goranka will wrap us up in a moment, and you might have 5 minutes this morning before you're into a next session. I'd encourage you to hop on to Family Compass and search your organization. Search what you might think you would expect to have come up, or search a topic where you would expect your organization to come up. You might already know, oh shoot, we've moved. I know our address is no longer accurate. Take a moment and jot down anything that you might know needs to be updated, and then maybe take another moment to think about who in your organization needs to know that. Because it might not be you, of course, that is responsible for updating your 211 records. If you need any assistance in understanding what comes next with updating 211, you can reach out to us. We can help with that. But on 211's site, there will also be information on contact information. But that's all I wanted to offer, Barb, and I'll turn it over to you to wrap up the time.
Great. Thanks so much, Allison. That's a really good idea with the few minutes that you have to keep this up to date. Saba, I see your hand is up. Is there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, that's another thing we want to work on eventually, is to, again, reduce the existing workload from organization. So it's called like web surfing, web crawling. And what that means is basically, if you have a data set, and if the website is right, the website of the organization right, you can find the programs and you can find the address, you can find the time, location, and all the stuff, and it will update it automatically based on the website. So if you keep your website up to date, then we can do that very simply, but that we haven't started doing that yet. But that's definitely something we can eventually work with Family Compass and 211 once we're done with this chatbot, to make it easier. And you only get pinged if your website changes, because then we can go through that website and actually take the information out.
That's great, Saba. Thank you. Well, I would like to just thank both Allison and Saba for providing this really important information. And, Saba, I just really want to acknowledge the incredible work that you have done in this initiative, and looking forward to more coming, and, making our work, our sites even more accessible. My wheels are already turning about where this, what we should be pursuing, so that we can continue on our journey of being accessible to all people. Thanks so much. That does bring us to the end of this session. And I will, for those of you returning at 10 o'clock, I look forward to seeing you there. And for those who are not, I hope you have a great day, and nice to see so many of you on this call. Thank you, everyone.